My best friend sabotaged my life. Then I discovered her secret diary. Before we begin the story, make sure to subscribe to our channel and never miss more incredible stories every day. I never believed in fate until the night I found it. The diary. It was wedged beneath the corner of her bed, barely visible, like it wanted to be discovered. I had dropped my phone, the screen clattering against the hardwood floor, and when I knelt down to grab it, my hand brushed against the frayed leather cover. My best friend's diary. The one she always joked about. The one she swore held nothing but silly doodles and thoughts. At first, I hesitated. She and I had been inseparable since middle school. We shared secrets over midnight pizza, whispered promises during sleepovers, cried over heartbreaks, and celebrated victories together. She was my person, the one I trusted more than anyone else. Opening that diary felt like betrayal, but something inside me twisted, a gut instinct whispering that I needed to know. When I flipped open the first page, I expected girlish scrawls about crushes or venting about exams. Instead, the words stabbed me like a knife. She doesn't even realize I'm the reason her college application got rejected. My chest tightened. I blinked at the page, reading it again and again, my brain refusing to process. I turned the page. Another entry. It's almost too easy to spread rumors about her. People believe me because they think I'm the honest one. I can't wait to see her face when she loses everything she thinks she's earned. My stomach dropped. Every coincidence, every fight, every lost opportunity. Suddenly, it all had an explanation. My so-called best friend had been orchestrating my downfall like a puppeteer, pulling strings while comforting me with fake sympathy. I sat there, shaking, my fingers trembling over the ink. Tears blurred the words, but I kept reading, flipping page after page, each one peeling away the skin of our friendship to reveal something rotten underneath. She hadn't just hurt me by accident. She had planned it. She wanted it. But then I saw something even worse, an unfinished entry, scrawled in rushed handwriting, as if she had been interrupted. If she ever finds out, I'll make sure she regrets it. No one will believe her anyway. I froze, the diary heavy in my hands, my heart hammering. She wasn't just sabotaging me. She was prepared to destroy me if I uncovered the truth. And in that moment, a chilling thought settled into my bones. Maybe finding this diary wasn't an accident at all. Before the diary, before the truth burned itself into my memory, I thought she was the one constant in my life. We had this unspoken bond, or so I believed. People envied us for how close we were. Teachers praised us for supporting each other. Friends teased us about being inseparable, and even my parents called her their second daughter. If anyone had told me then that she was plotting behind my back, I would have laughed in their face. But looking back, the cracks were always there. I remember junior year when I didn't get into the art program I had dreamed about. I had poured myself into that portfolio, sleepless nights sketching, revising, starting over. When the rejection letter came, I cried in her arms, and she told me, "Maybe they just didn't see your potential yet. You're too good for them." At the time, her words felt comforting. Now, as I thought about the diary's confession, those words sounded like mockery. Then there was the time I started dating Eric. He was sweet, thoughtful, the kind of guy who actually remembered small details, like how I always added cinnamon to my coffee. She acted happy for me at first, joking around and saying she'd be our third wheel. But it didn't last. A few weeks later, Eric suddenly grew distant, stopped texting, and when I asked him why, he mumbled something about things he'd heard. He never explained, and we broke up shortly after. I always assumed it was just teenage immaturity. Now, reading that she spread rumors about me, the truth hit like a slap. She had poisoned him against me. Even the little things made sense now. Her smug smile when I stumbled during presentations, the way she always seemed to have just the right thing to say to others when I messed up. People believed her, not me. She was the reliable one, the responsible one. And I was, well, whatever she painted me to be. I set the diary down for a moment, my hands clammy with sweat. It felt like my entire life was being rewritten in front of me. Every memory, every laugh, every tear shed on her shoulder, it was all contaminated. She hadn't just sabotaged me once or twice. She had been weaving this web for years. When I picked the diary up again, my eyes landed on a page that chilled me to the bone. It wasn't about the past. It was about the future. She had written, "Her new job starts soon." If she thinks it'll work out, she's dead wrong. I'll make sure she loses this one too. And that's when the room seemed to spin. Because that job was starting in just 3 days. 3 days. That was all I had before stepping into what I thought would be a fresh start. A chance to rebuild myself after everything that had gone wrong the past year. But now, staring at those poisonous words in her diary, it felt less like a beginning and more like a trap. I couldn't stop replaying her entry over and over. I'll make sure she loses this one too. It wasn't vague. It wasn't some silly teenage rant. It was deliberate, calculated, and terrifying. I tried to think back. Had I told her too much? Of course I had. She was my best friend, the one I trusted with every detail of my life. She knew where I was interviewing, what company hired me, who my manager would be, even the insecurities I confessed about being good enough. She had access to all of it. And now, I realized, she could use every piece like a weapon. The first time I caught a glimpse of how far she'd go was when I checked my email. A draft sat unsent in my account, addressed to my new boss. The message was short, but sharp, a concerned acquaintance warning them that I wasn't reliable, that I had a history of lying on applications. My chest tightened as I scrolled through it. The language was almost too familiar. It echoed the way she'd always teased me when no one else was listening. Panic turned into rage. I slammed the laptop shut and paced the room. If she had the gall to sneak into my email, what else had she already done? How many people had already received lies dressed as truth? That night, I barely slept. Every creak in the house, every buzz of my phone sent me spiraling into paranoia. By morning, I made up my mind. I couldn't walk blindly into this new job. I had to protect myself before she tore it away from me. But as I gathered the diary to look for more, a folded piece of paper slipped out from between the pages. My heart hammered as I unfolded it. It wasn't her handwriting this time. It was mine. My signature, forged beneath words I had never written. I resign. And it was dated for next week. My hands shook as I held the paper. My own name scrawled beneath words I had never written. For a moment, my mind went completely blank. It was like looking at a version of myself I didn't recognize, a ghost of me signing away the one chance I had left to rebuild my life. The realization hit like a punch to the chest. She hadn't just been messing with my reputation. She was planning an outright execution of my future. The diary entries, the email draft, and now this letter. It was all part of a plan to make me look unstable, careless, and unreliable. And the worst part? If she managed to send it, no one would question it. The handwriting was uncanny. Even the looping curve of my why looked authentic. I tore through the diary again, scanning the pages for anything else she might have hidden. My stomach dropped when I found a list, neatly written in the margins of one entry. A checklist. Next to each item was a date. Rumor to coworkers, done. Break up her relationship, done. Make her doubt herself, done. Resignation letter, soon. The air around me grew heavy. My bad luck, over the past year suddenly had a face, a name, and now undeniable proof. All those times I thought the universe was against me, it had been her. My best friend. I wanted to scream, to call her right then and demand answers. But something in me snapped shut. If I confronted her too soon, she would just twist it, gaslight me, convince everyone I was paranoid. She was too good at playing innocent. So instead, I slid the forged resignation into a folder and locked it in my desk drawer. For the first time in months, I felt a spark of control. She thought she could keep manipulating me in the dark, but now I had evidence. The question was, how far had she already gone? My phone buzzed. A new message. It was from my boss. Can we talk about your decision to step away from the role? HR looped me in. Let's chat Monday. I stared at the message until the words blurred. HR. My boss. They already believed I had resigned. My pulse hammered in my ears as panic surged through me. This wasn't just a plan she was working on. It was already in motion. I scrambled to my laptop and opened my work email. Sure enough, sitting in my sent folder was the resignation letter, word for word, in my style. The timestamp showed it had been sent last night, right around the time I was having dinner with her. My best friend. She must have done it while I was in the bathroom or distracted. I remembered leaving my phone on the table. My email was logged in automatically. My blood ran cold. For a moment, I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Everything I had worked for, years of stress, late nights, sacrifices, was dangling by a thread. and she was the one holding the scissors. I grabbed my phone and texted her. "We need to talk. Urgent." She replied almost instantly. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" The audacity of her feigned concern made my stomach twist. Did she actually think I was that blind? Or maybe she was testing me, trying to gauge how much I knew. I wanted to scream at her, but something stopped me. If I confronted her too soon, she'd just twist it back on me. She had already managed to fool HR, my boss, maybe even my coworkers. She was planting seeds everywhere. Instead, I typed back, "Yeah, just stressed. Can we meet tomorrow?" A pause. Then, of course, sleepover like old times. The gall of her suggestion nearly made me laugh, but there was no humor in it. A sleepover, back under the same roof with the person dismantling my life piece by piece. I shut off my phone, chest tight. I couldn't play her game anymore, not blindly. I needed proof. Not just the diary. Not just the forged letter. I needed to catch her in the act. That night, as the apartment creaked with silence, I slid the diary under my pillow. My eyes stayed wide open in the dark, adrenaline buzzing through me. Tomorrow, I would walk straight into her trap. But this time, I'd be ready. When I showed up at her house the next evening, my heart was pounding so hard it hurt. From the outside, everything looked the same. The cheerful yellow porch light, the little potted flowers she'd always boasted about. It was almost laughable how ordinary it all seemed, given the war brewing between us beneath the surface. She greeted me with her usual bright smile, the kind that once felt like home to me. "I've got snacks, wine, and movies lined up, just like old times," she chirped, pulling me into a hug that made my skin crawl. I forced a smile, pretending not to notice the calculating gleam in her eyes. I could feel her sizing me up, like a predator deciding how best to play with its prey. Inside, her living room was cozy, the same mismatched blankets and scented candles that had accompanied countless teenage confessions. For a fleeting moment, nostalgia tugged at me, reminding me of how badly I had once needed her in my life. But now, every memory felt poisoned. We settled in, and for the first hour she played the role perfectly, gossiping, laughing, pouring wine. But I was studying her every move. The way she tilted her head when she asked, "So, how's work going?" The way her fingers twitched when I replied casually, "Oh, fine. Nothing new." She was waiting for me to reveal the panic, the fallout she expected from her little trick. But I gave her nothing. As the night stretched on, I excused myself to the bathroom. My hands shook as I opened her bedroom door instead. I knew it was risky, but I had to see if there was more. I crouched near her desk, scanning drawers, folders. That's when I saw it. A folder labeled in her neat handwriting, "Plans." My stomach nodded as I pulled it out. Inside were printouts of my emails, old photos, even copies of conversations I barely remembered. She had been cataloging me, archiving my life like I was nothing more than a project. But the real shock came at the bottom, a draft email to my boyfriend, filled with lies designed to make him hate me. I froze, clutching the papers, when I heard her voice behind me, cold and sharp. "What do you think you're doing?" I spun around so fast that the folder nearly slipped from my hands. She was standing in the doorway, her arms crossed, her face stripped of its practiced sweetness. The mask was gone, and in its place was something colder, a predator caught mid-hunt but unashamed. "You're in my room," she said, her voice low and venomous. "That's a violation, you know." I swallowed hard, the papers trembling in my grip. "What the hell is this?" I shouted, waving the folder. "Why do you have my emails? Why are you writing fake messages to my boyfriend? What the hell is wrong with you?" For a second, she didn't flinch. Instead, she tilted her head, a cruel smirk tugging at her lips. "Finally," she whispered. "You see it. Took you long enough." The room felt like it was spinning. My best friend, the person who had held my hand through heartbreaks and cheered me on during milestones, was standing there like a stranger. No, worse than a stranger, an enemy who had always been inside the gates. "Why?" My voice cracked, more desperate than I wanted it to be. "Why would you do this to me?" Her smirk vanished, replaced by a flash of rage. "Because everything you have should have been mine," she snapped. "The boyfriends, the attention, the successes. Do you know what it's like to always be second? To always watch you shine while I get ignored?" Her words cut deeper than any blade. I wanted to scream, to shake her, to demand more, but she suddenly lunged forward and snatched the folder from my hands. I gasped, my nails scraping against the papers as she ripped them away. You don't get to use my things against me, she hissed, her face inches from mine. You walk out of here tonight, and you keep your mouth shut, or you'll regret it. My chest tightened as the air between us grew heavy with her threat. For the first time, I realized just how dangerous she really was. And then she whispered, almost gleefully, "You haven't even seen the worst of it yet." I stood frozen in her room, my heart hammering in my chest. Her words echoed in my ears. You haven't even seen the worst of it yet. The venom in her voice was nothing like the girl I thought I knew. This wasn't jealousy whispered in shadows. It was an open declaration of war. She shoved the folder into a drawer and slammed it shut, locking it with a tiny key she pulled from her necklace. The metallic click made me flinch. It was like watching her lock away every shred of evidence that could prove she'd been dismantling my life piece by piece. You need to calm down, she said suddenly, her tone shifting, sugary sweet, but dripping with mockery. People already think you're unstable, remember? Do you really want to give them more reason to believe that? Her words hit me like ice water. I thought back to the whispers at school, the sideways glances, the rumors that seemed to come out of nowhere, about me being dramatic, clingy, even crazy. It was her. She had been planting those seeds all along, and now she was watering them with my fear. Why are you doing this? My voice cracked, but I didn't care. Tears burned my eyes. We were supposed to be best friends. You promised me forever. Her expression softened just enough to make me wonder if there was any truth left in her. But then she leaned closer and whispered, "Forever doesn't mean equal, and you were never supposed to be the one who won." I felt like the ground was disappearing under me. She brushed past me, her perfume sickly sweet, and opened the door. "Go home," she said coldly. "Forget what you saw, or I'll make sure everyone else sees a version of you they'll hate even more." I stumbled out of her room, my chest tight, my mind spinning. For the first time, I understood. She wasn't just jealous. She was dangerous. And if she had more secrets hidden away, worse than fake emails and cruel rumors, I needed to find them before she destroyed me completely. But what I didn't know then was that the diary wasn't her only secret. I couldn't sleep that night. Her words kept replaying in my head like a poison loop. Forever doesn't mean equal. You were never supposed to win. I stared at the ceiling, clutching my blanket, the weight of betrayal pressing against my chest like a boulder. But beneath the hurt, a fire burned. If she thought I was going to back down, she didn't know me at all. The next morning, I returned to her house under the guise of normalcy. We'd been so inseparable for so long that my presence there wasn't suspicious. I smiled, laughed at her jokes, acted as if her threats hadn't carved scars into me. But every move I made had a purpose. My eyes traced every corner of her room, searching for that locked drawer, for cracks in her armor. When she left to take a call outside, I slipped to my knees in front of the drawer. My hands trembled, but my heart beat steady with determination. I pulled at the handle, locked tight, as expected. Then I remembered the necklace she wore, the one with the tiny key. But there was something else, another notebook under her bed, taped to the wooden slats. I yanked it free, dust scattering into the air. It wasn't the same diary I'd found before. This one was smaller, battered, almost like a draft. I flipped it open, and my stomach turned. Pages of plans, step by step, of how she'd ruined me. Bullet points of rumors she wanted to spread. Notes on people to manipulate. Lists of my weaknesses. But then I saw something worse. Dates for the future. Events she hadn't even acted on yet. Things she was planning to destroy. Opportunities one hadn't even told her about. Secrets I'd barely whispered to myself. She was 2 steps ahead, orchestrating not just my past downfall, but my future too. And just as I was about to close the notebook, I heard footsteps behind me. Funny, her voice cut through the air like a knife. "I wondered how long it would take you to find that one." I froze, the notebook clutched in my shaking hands, my heart thundering so loudly I thought she might hear it echo off the walls. Slowly, I turned to face her, and there she was, standing in the doorway, smirking like a predator who had just cornered her prey. Her eyes glinted with triumph, as if she had orchestrated this moment too. "You shouldn't snoop through things that don't belong to you," she said calmly, walking closer, each step deliberate, controlled. She didn't yell. She didn't panic. That made it worse. Her calmness meant she was prepared. I tried to find words, but they caught in my throat. I looked down at the damning pages, the cruel bullet points of my life twisted into her game. My chest tightened. "Why, Claire?" I finally managed to whisper, my voice cracking. "Why would you do this to me?" She tilted her head, almost pitying me. "Because you had everything handed to you. People loved you, trusted you. And she laughed bitterly. "I was just the shadow standing next to you. Do you know how exhausting it is to always be second best?" Her words stung, not because they justified anything, but because I realized she had always felt this way. Every sleepover, every inside joke, every moment I thought was real, poisoned by jealousy. "You ruined my life because you were jealous?" I asked, my voice trembling with both fury and disbelief. She leaned closer, her whisper venomous. "No, I ruined your life because I could, and you never saw it coming." The rage boiling inside me was stronger than the fear. I clutched the diary tighter, like a weapon, and forced myself to stand tall. "This doesn't stay hidden anymore, Claire. Everyone's going to know who you really are." Her smirk faded for the first time, her eyes narrowing. And then, without warning, she lunged for the notebook in my hands. Her hands clawed at mine, desperate to rip the diary away. We crashed into the coffee table, papers scattering like confetti across the floor, fragments of her venomous thoughts now laid bare between us. My heart pounded as adrenaline surged, and for the first time in years, I wasn't frozen under her control. "Give it back," she screamed, her voice cracking with raw desperation. It was the first time I'd seen her mask slip so completely. Gone was the calm, manipulative friend. This was something primal, unhinged. "No," I shouted back, my grip tightening until my knuckles whitened. "The world deserves to know what you did to me, what you've done to everyone." She shoved me hard, sending me sprawling back against the couch. The diary slid across the hardwood, pages fluttering open like a grotesque confession. We both scrambled for it, the room echoing with our frantic breaths. My fingers grazed the cover first, and I yanked it close to my chest like a lifeline. Her eyes blazed. "Do you think anyone will believe you?" she spat, her voice dripping with venom. "You're pathetic. You're nothing without me." But even as she spoke, I saw the panic flicker in her eyes. She knew the truth was powerful. She knew those pages, her own words, were more damning than anything I could invent. For the first time, I felt the balance shift. "You're wrong," I said, my voice steady despite the tears streaming down my face. "You're nothing because of me. Everything you wanted, you could only get by destroying me." Her jaw tightened, and then she did something I didn't expect. She smiled, slow and chilling. "If you walk out of this house with that diary," she whispered, "you'll regret it for the rest of your life." The threat hung in the air, heavier than any slap or scream. And yet, clutching the diary, I took a trembling step toward the door. The night air hit my face like a slap as I shoved open the front door, the diary pressed tight against my chest. Behind me, her voice cut through the darkness, shrill, venomous, and desperate. "You think you're strong now? You'll see what happens when you cross me." I stumbled down the porch steps, my hands trembling, my lungs burning. My whole body was buzzing with adrenaline. For years, I had let her words, her manipulations, her subtle poison dictate who I was. Tonight, with her diary in my arms, I finally felt something else coursing through me: freedom. The street was eerily quiet, the kind of silence that amplifies every sound. My footsteps echoed against the pavement as I walked faster, then broke into a run. The diary was heavy, not in weight, but in consequence. Every page was a weapon, her confessions, her schemes, her cruelty scrawled in black ink. When I reached my car, I locked the doors immediately, my hands shaking as I fumbled with the keys. My heart was still pounding, but I felt the tiniest flicker of control. She could no longer pretend. No more lies, no more gaslighting. I had her truth in my hands. But even as relief surged through me, another thought coiled in my chest like a snake. She wouldn't give up. She'd come for me, for the diary, for the control she thrived on. And I wasn't sure just how far she'd go to protect her secrets. I placed the diary on the passenger seat and stared at it under the dim glow of the streetlight. For the first time, I realized something chilling. This wasn't just about friendship or betrayal anymore. This was a war, and the diary was my only shield. As I gripped the steering wheel, her final words echoed in my ears. "You'll regret it for the rest of your life." And deep down, I knew she wasn't bluffing. I didn't sleep that night. The diary sat on my kitchen table like a live bomb, daring me to keep reading. Every time I closed it, the words burned in my mind. Her handwriting, so familiar, so neat, felt like a blade carving deeper into me with every sentence. One entry was about the time she spread the rumor that I cheated on my ex. She wrote it almost gleefully. She'll never know it came from me. Watching her relationship crumble was better than any movie. My chest tightened, remembering the endless arguments, the sleepless nights of begging him to trust me. I thought I had failed him. In reality, it was her all along. Another entry described how she sabotaged my big interview. Deleted her reminder on her phone, switched her resume with the old version on her laptop. She'll think it's her fault. She always does. I slammed the book shut while rising in my throat. That job could have changed my life, and she stole it from me just to watch me fall. By morning, my hands shook as I poured coffee. Every sip tasted bitter. My phone buzzed, her name flashing across the screen. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail instead, her voice deceptively sweet. Hey, just checking in. You left so suddenly last night. Hope everything's okay. Call me? I nearly threw the phone across the room. The audacity, the sheer gall, after everything I had read. My stomach turned as I realized she still believed she had the upper hand. But she didn't know what I had now. She didn't know that her secret diary wasn't secret anymore. And as I stared at the leather cover glinting under the light, a thought I never imagined having began to take shape. Maybe, just maybe, it was time to let everyone else see exactly who she really was. I didn't waste another second. That morning, I scanned pages of the diary into my laptop, my hands trembling as I created digital copies of her venom. Each entry was a confession, proof she couldn't deny. With every click of the scanner, I felt stronger, like I was finally reclaiming control she had stolen from me for years. But exposure wasn't something I could rush. I wanted it to hit her like a tidal wave, leaving her no room to breathe, no excuse to crawl behind. So, I began carefully. I sent one entry, just one, to a mutual friend who had drifted away from me after one of her stories about me. I simply wrote, "Read this. Then tell me if you still think I was the problem." The response came almost instantly. Holy sh**t. Is this real? She wrote this? Yes, I replied. And there's more. By the end of the day, the whispers had begun. Friends she had turned against me were suddenly messaging, apologizing, admitting they had believed her lies. One even said, "She told me you tried to sabotage her scholarship." But this entry, it's literally her bragging about stealing your recommendation letter. It was working. Her empire of lies was beginning to collapse. That evening, she called again. This time, her voice was sharp, almost panicked. "We need to talk. Right now? I don't know what's going on, but people are saying things about me. Did you do something?" I stared at my phone, heart pounding, a grim smile tugging at my lips. She was scrambling, and for once, I held the power. But I wasn't done yet. I hadn't revealed the darkest entries, the ones that would destroy her carefully curated image once and for all. Those were coming. And when they did, there'd be no saving her reputation, her friendships, or the lies she clung to. Tomorrow, I thought, gripping the diary tightly. Tomorrow the world will know exactly who she really is. The next day felt electric, like the air before a storm. I had spent the night stitching together the most damning pieces of her diary into one file. Every page carried her handwriting, her admissions, her venomous glee at watching me suffer. There would be no way for her to deny it. Her words would bury her. I didn't send it anonymously. No, this time I signed my name at the end of the document. I wanted her to know exactly who pulled the mask off her face. With one email, I sent the file to every mutual friend, every teacher who once believed her lies, and even her family. Within minutes, the fallout began. My phone buzzed nonstop with messages, shock, anger, disbelief. Screenshots spread faster than I expected. The girl who had once held my life in her hands was suddenly the one drowning under the weight of truth. Then, the call came. Her voice was broken this time. Not manipulative, not sharp, but hollow. "How could you do this to me?" she whispered. I laughed bitterly. "How could you do this to me? For years, you thought you were clever, untouchable, but you wrote it all down. And now, everyone knows." Silence. Then, a trembling admission I never expected. I hated you. I hated how people loved you without you even trying. I wanted everything you had. The raw honesty in her words made me feel both sick and free. She had never been my friend. She had been a parasite, feeding off envy. And finally, she had destroyed herself with her own hand. I ended the call without another word. I didn't need to hear her excuses, her justifications, or her tears. I had wasted too many years on a friendship that never truly existed. That night, I sat alone with the diary, her once powerful weapon, now nothing more than paper and ink. I didn't feel triumphant. I felt lighter. She had tried to sabotage my life, but in the end, she exposed herself. And me? I was finally free.